Dr. Ernest Holmes, who is the founder of the Science of Mind teaching, defines grace in the glossary of the Science of Mind textbook as the logical result of the correct experience of life, as well as a correct relationship to spirit. So we have the opportunity to express an attitude of gratitude, which is the title of my talk this morning, by embodying the light of love for all our brothers and sisters through their ouches as well as through their triumphs. And as we unify within that collective heart grid, we begin to build the rainbow bridges that reach the new earth. We are at a collective turning point for demonstrating new realities. The time to let go of our outdated stories is upon us. The time to embrace new possibilities and new ideas is right here and right now. So talking the talk is now complete. It's time to walk the walk. And trusting in the higher power as we cross over the rainbow bridge into an unknown journey is what we're here for. We chose to be here in this moment. We can be aglow. How many of you were at the aglow at the balloon fiesta? That was fantastic, wasn't it? So we can light up if we choose. The veil between matter and form is getting thinner and thinner. The experience of falling in and out of the linear realities is becoming palpable. There are many people who have already seen themselves in another reality. And this is not a brand new idea. This was introduced back in 1986 by Ken Wilber, who inherited it from Don Beck and Claire Graves as something called spiral dynamics. Does anybody remember vertical spiral dynamics? So in that experience, the past, the present, and the future are all happening at one time, and they're happening vertically rather than horizontally. So there isn't any time, there isn't any space, there's just an influx of light, an opportunity for us to embody a higher level of awareness, to become connected to the Great Spirit in a deeper, more multidimensional, expanded way. And this is the work that we do with the chakras and the crystal bowls, when we move from the root chakra all the way up to the crown chakra and beyond, up into the 12th dimension. And Sandra Walter, who is my ascension coach, says that the only way embodiment becomes a fully present experience is through conscious intent and practice. So how do we change our action within that field of possibility, within that one mind? What I'd like to share with you this morning are 5 ways to attempt that. And they are from Dr. J. Scott Neal, his book entitled The Power of Positive Purpose. And Dr. J has the church in Hollywood that's, I think, estimated at about $7 million in value. He's one of the icons in the movement, and he's a really dynamic and powerful speaker. And he's actually one of the only 2 in the movement. My mentor, Dr. Arlene Bump, and he are the only 2 left that actually grew up with Dr. Ernest Holmes, walked with him and talked with him. So he's a very powerful guide. So the first way is by knowing it takes positive faith and practice to achieve positive success. So anytime anything is experienced outside of our collective reality, even by only a few, those are known as the outliers, that experience becomes available for all of us within the collective consciousness. Remember, there can't be an infinite and something separate from it. So we all exist within the same field of possibility. And we all have access to everything that is contained within it. When we reflect back on the great master teacher, Jesus of Nazareth, whatever spiritual force moved within his heart also moves within us. And if you recall, he did teach us, greater things than these, so shall you do. So when we set about actualizing this greatness and we combine our energy with the possibilities of the future, we bring positive alternatives into the now moment. And this is what we do when we vision. We invite in that original thought from the Great Spirit. And the mystical path is one that arises from a completely different modus operandi. So we can't keep doing everything the way we always did everything before. It requires an emergence from the drama of our human evolution towards a more spiritualized version of who we can be. So when Spirit calls, it's important for us to respond. And sometimes we don't understand the call, but we do it anyways. We invoke the light by actively acknowledging that it exists. And often that requires a deeper journey, a more personal transformation. And last Sunday I talked quite a bit about the Harry Potter series. And as I was working on the outline for the talk this morning, I remembered that Hermione and Harry and Weasley and all the characters that set out to go to Hogwarts had to go to platform 9 3/4 at the train station. And there wasn't one. There was 9 and there was 10. But there wasn't 9 3/4. Yet they had the faith to dress up and show up. And what happened? It appeared. And this is from Marianne Williamson in her book entitled Everyday Grace. On some mystical, mysterious level, despite whatever resistance they felt, the great are simply those who said yes at times when others would have said no. So it's up to us to make a conscious choice. It's up to us to change our own action. Which brings me to the second way that we do that. And that is by practicing mindfulness and opening our thinking to new ideas. The influx of that light must be directed by our conscious intent. So it's up to us to support that in our actions, our thoughts, our words, and our deeds. And you may have noticed that race consciousness around us has a tendency to support the negative reality, the fear, the drama. But until we slay the monsters and the dragons within ourselves, we will continue to encounter them in the material world. As spiritual beings having a human experience, We can only get out of the darkness if we move towards the light. So it's up to us to question the nature of the reality that surrounds us. We are meant to rise above the limitations of the physical world, to cultivate the sacred in the midst of our everyday living. So how do we do this? The third way is by rejecting negative thinking and filling our heart and mind with the loving qualities of spiritual awareness. In the opening song, Michael Farr sings, "Become thankful for the darkness, because you get to know the light again. Be thankful for the silence, because it's an opportunity to go within. Be thankful for the moment, because you can watch the sun come up, and you can also watch it go down." So we transform the world by transforming ourselves first. And the journey from the density of this form into the light includes every aspect of who we are. Beyond the evidence of the physical realm, there is an experience of the divine. And it is where we find the answers to our divine calling. It is where we begin to live from a place of spiritual foundation. A principle, an intention, a focused thought has the power to create. And every morning in my daily spiritual practice, I renew my oral contract to serve all who enter into my energy field to the highest and best of my ability. And so often I go within to listen to my guides, to the angels, to the divine, for direction about how to do that. So we can change our own action, which brings me to the fourth way, by honoring our inner desire to know and understand more. Before I became a minister, I was a hairdresser for 34 years, which was great training, because something happens. You know, there are so few professions on this planet that you actually get to touch people. And so, you're shampooing their hair, and there's this truth serum that pops in, and they tell you everything. So it was great guidance for counseling. I had a client, a very dear client. His name was AJ. And he used to always say that you can do any job if you have the right tools. So we need spiritual tools in order to walk the walk. And this is the reason why I continue to rise in love with the science of mind teaching, because it is scientifically provable. We have the power to transform any situation into something miraculous by simply changing the way we look at it. Michael Farr, thankful for the bird songs, the way they sing to me. And you know how I feel about the animal spirit guides. While I was preparing the outline for the talk this morning, I went out onto the balcony to throw some organic things into the bush. Shh, don't tell anybody. I can't put it in the garbage because there's critters out there. And there was a raven sitting in the fern tree right off my balcony, and he was just squawking up a storm. And the raven symbolized change and transformation. Native holy men understood that what the physical eye sees is not necessarily the truth. So they called upon the raven for clarity. And it is believed that messages beyond space and time are nestled in the midnight wings of the raven. The raven was also called upon by medicine men to clarify their visions. And they came only to those within the tribe who were worthy of the knowledge. So if we turn towards spirit, it turns towards us. There is a collective knowing that other dimensions do exist. And that sense of knowing is causing a resurgence on the planet. Maybe some of you have been witness to that. We are more powerful than we seem to know. We are so much more than we think we can be. Which brings me to the fifth way. By letting love flow from the greatness of heart to the greatness of experience, we can align ourselves within that infinite field of possibilities. We don't change the law, but we do change our action within it. And the French philosopher Chardin says that one day, after we have mastered the winds and the waves, gravity and the tides, we will harness for God the energies of love. And then, for the second time in human history, mankind will have discovered fire. I love that graphic. Isn't it beautiful? So we attain spiritual awareness when we move in consciousness from knowing about our own inner freedom to discovering how to think and act from within it. And an attitude of gratitude happens when that practice is centered in spiritual awareness. Thankful to be thankful. It's all I have to be. Thankful for the world as she turns, and we go round and round and round. We are made in the image and likeness of the Great Spirit, which doesn't mean we look like Him. It means that all the original thoughts, all the possibilities are already within us. When we consciously shift our perceptions, enhance our vibrations, the original thoughts flow through us into expression. Dr. Ernest Holmes teaches us that there is a power for good in the universe, greater than we are, and we can use it. And in class this past week, Dr. Michael Beckwith had a little addition to that, which I really liked, that says, there is a power that can use us. So surrendering to the divine allows us to experience even deeper levels of awareness. We can become a living embodiment if we let God work through us. It is our reason for being here. And when we do, we outpicture perfect health. Our avenues of creativity open. Abundance flows into our experience. And we attract meaningful, loving relationships. And I'd like to close with this quote from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. that my other mentor, Dr. James Lockhart, posted up on Facebook after the incident in California. He and his wife had actually taken dance lessons where it happened, so it was personal for him. Our goal is to create a beloved community, and this will require a qualitative change in our souls, as well as a quantitative change in our lives. So an attitude of gratitude requires a deep inner change, as well as a demonstration of that change in our world. So in a nutshell, I'd like to share with you one of my favorite affirmations. Let's see what Spirit creates through me today. Affirm that with me. Let's see what Spirit creates through me today. Thank you, and namaste.